Before the first word, there was listening.
And that's really where we begin this exploration. Not with the answers already laid out, no models, no frameworks just yet.
No.
We start with a concept, one that's, well, deeply rooted. It grounds everything else we'll talk about. Ting.
Which means?
It means before speech, there is listening.
Before speech, listening. That's the starting point. And, it's not your typical executive summary, is it? No bullet points here.
Not at all.
It's more like a moment. The source actually describes it as one breath, one silence, one quiet readiness to hear what has not yet been spoken. Just think about that for a second. In a world that's always demanding instant answers, loud opinions, just filling every silence.
Yeah, constant noise.
The foundation here is silence. Readiness. It feels, well, quite challenging maybe, as a place to start a series on leadership.
But maybe the most necessary place. It immediately shifts your perspective, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, leadership, we usually frame it around talking, right? Directing, persuading, using words.
Sure. The output.
Exactly. But what if the real source, the core of effective leadership, is actually listening? And not just, listening to the words people say, but listening to what's not said, to the undercurrents in a room, to the human heartbeats, as the source kind of hints. If that's the root,
then everything has to change. Our whole approach.
Right. It means this listening, this pause, it isn't just some polite thing you do before you get to the real work of talking.
It is the real work.
It is the real work.
And, okay, as we sort of settle into this moment, this idea of listening, the source introduces the voice behind these insights. And it hints at a journey, a transformation that really shapes everything we're going to explore. It mentions a name given at the start, Oliver Werner.
And then the name used now, Lóng Tíng.
It feels like more than just changing a name, doesn't it? It suggests something deeper, some kind of profound personal shift.
Oh, absolutely. The language used is just, it's incredibly evocative. It says a storm carved something deeper.
Wow.
Yeah. And it talks about a journey where the dragon I followed became the dragon I am. This isn't corporate speak.
No, definitely not branding.
It feels like personal mythology. It tells you these insights, they didn't just come from reading books. They came from navigating real challenges, from some deep internal transformation.
Like the leadership path is tied to self-discovery.
Inextricably linked, I think. Embodying your own power. And the name itself, Lóng Tíng. It carries weight, doesn't it? Dragon soaring heaven or dragon high thunder. It suggests something potent, maybe even disruptive, but rooted in something ancient, powerful.
So stepping into this deep dive, it's not like just opening a book halfway through or tuning into any old episode. The source is very clear about what this moment is. It calls it a threshold.
Yes, a threshold. And it defines it as a shared space between you and me, between the future we imagine and the present we're still learning how to hold.
A shared space. I like that.
It acknowledges that just engaging with these ideas, listening right now, it's stepping into a particular kind of space, one that asks for maybe some vulnerability, shared presence.
Yeah.
It's an invitation, really, to meet the material and maybe meet yourself in a way that's different from, say, a typical training session.
We're standing at the edge of something together.
Exactly.
And this whole thing, this huge body of work behind this series, didn't start with some grand plan, did it? Like, let's write a book.
No, apparently not. The source says the speaker never set out to write a book.
Which feels important somehow. So much of what we do, especially professionally, is driven by targets, outcomes, plans.
Right, the deliverables.
But this started differently. It set out to ask a question.
And that's crucial, isn't it? What kind of question is so fundamental, so persistent, that it grows into, over 750 pages of reflection and countless conversations.
It wasn't about having the answers ready.
No, it was about pursuing the question. With rigor, yes, but also with presence.
And the source shares those core questions, the ones that spark this whole thing. And they feel incredibly relevant, very human, very... Now,
what's the first one?
The first one just hits you. What does it mean to lead when the world keeps changing faster than our hearts can follow?
Oof, yeah. We all feel that, don't we? That pace.
Absolutely. The tech shifts, the global changes, the cultural currents. It feels like they're swirling faster than we can really process sometimes.
And that phrase, faster than our hearts can follow, that's key.
It's not just an intellectual challenge, is it? Or strategic.
It's an emotional, psychological, deeply.
Our minds might grasp the data, the facts of the change.
Yeah.
But our hearts, our ability to connect, to trust, to feel stable, they struggle.
Yeah.
So leadership in that context, it's not just about managing the external stuff. It's about tending to the internal human capacity, helping people adapt, cope, find meaning when everything's turbulent.
It demands a different kind of leader.
Yeah.
Someone who gets that human piece.
Then there's the question about connection, bridging divides, which is obviously central to the East-West focus, but it feels much broader too. What does it mean to connect across languages, wounds, continents, beliefs? It's more than just translation, isn't it?
Oh, much more. That question immediately takes connection beyond just, communication logistics, and including wounds in there.
That stood out to me, too.
It's powerful, and it's often missing from the usual leadership talk. It accepts that there's history, there's collective pain, unresolved conflicts between people, cultures, nations.
Right.
And you can't have real connection if you ignore that stuff, if you pretend the scars aren't there.
So global leadership has to involve some kind of healing, reconciliation, not just deals and transactions.
I think that's what it implies.
Yeah.
With immense care, immense sensitivity.
And the third question.
Yeah.
This one feels the most personal. It cuts right to authenticity.
It is.
And who are we, really, when we stop performing leadership and start embodying it?
The performance of leadership. We see so much of that, don't we?
We're taught it. Put on the persona, hit the metrics, play the part.
Precisely. And this question challenges all that. It says, what if leadership isn't an act you put on, like a mask?
What if it flows from who you actually are?
Your core being, your values, your integrated self, embodying it. It's less about the title on your business card.
And more about the presence you bring.
Exactly. It asks us to strip away the performance, the behaviors we learn just to impress or fit in.
And find the authentic self that can actually lead.
A self that's rooted, present, integrated. That's a much deeper dig than just learning a few new techniques, isn't it?
Much deeper.
Yeah.
And these questions, they lead straight into a critique of how we usually think about leadership, how it's taught.
Right.
The source points out the common narrative. We're often told leadership was a path, a ladder, a race, a game of metrics and models.
That's the language, isn't it? Corporate Success 101. Linear progress, competition, things you can count.
Very goal-oriented, structured, often quite, well, Western-centric maybe.
I think so, yes. It emphasizes moving upwards, quantitative results, and look, it can work for certain things, certain tasks.
Sure.
But does it really capture the complexity? Leading actual human beings through uncertainty. Across massive differences, it tends to value efficiency, control, maybe over-connection and adaptability.
But the source offers a totally different picture, a different metaphor,
Yeah.
one that really connects with that idea of flow and presence we started with.
Which is?
But what if leadership is none of that? What if it's a river?
The river. That's ancient, isn't it? And powerful, because it's so unlike a ladder or a path somebody built.
How does the source describe it?
Moving, ancient, irregular, sometimes still, sometimes wild. Just think about those words.
Moving, ancient,
man.
and regular.
A river isn't constructed, it just is.
Yeah.
It follows the land, adapts, finds its way around obstacles. It has quiet pools, deep spots, and then rapids, wild energy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's connected, right, to this huge ecosystem, fed by countless streams flowing out to the ocean.
And the implication of thinking about leadership like that, it's huge and inclusive.
What's the implication?
The source asks, and what if every one of us, regardless of our role or title, is already in that river?
Wow. Okay, so that just dismantles the whole idea that leadership belongs only to the people at the top.
Right. It suggests leadership is more like a current, a force, a context we're all swimming in.
Constantly influencing it, being influenced by it, just by being alive and engaged in work, in life.
Yeah.
So if we're all in the river, then leadership isn't about climbing anymore. It's about navigating.
Navigating. I like that. Understanding the current.
Adapting to the flow. Knowing when maybe you need to push hard against the rapids and when you need to just find a quiet spot and eddy and wait.
It demands totally different skills.
Completely. Presence, observation, intuition, being responsive. Not just strategic planning and pushing hard. It changes how you think about power, agency, everything in a group.
Which brings us right to the vision behind the speaker's company, Lóng Tíng Enterprises, because it seems like it's built on this exact idea.
How so?
Well, the source says their founding principle isn't dominance.
Which is the old way, often. Power over.
Exactly. Instead, their principle is resonance.
Resonance. Think about that difference. Dominance is imposing your will, controlling, power over.
Right.
Resonance is finding harmony, aligning energies. creating a powerful vibration with others. It feels collaborative. Magnetic, maybe, instead of top-down.
Yeah. It suggests your impact comes from listening deeply, finding those shared frequencies, not just telling people what to do.
And that shapes how they approach innovation, too. It's not just about being fastest first, the sort of Silicon Valley race.
No, it's not innovation for the sake of speed, but for the sake of meaning.
That's such a critical distinction today, isn't it? With everyone obsessed with accelerating everything.
It asks speed towards what?
Exactly. Innovation for meaning. That sounds like creating value that really connects with human needs, with cultural context, maybe even, with the planet's needs.
It implies something slower, perhaps, more thoughtful, but ultimately deeper, more profound innovation.
I think so.
And right at the heart of their work, and therefore this series, is that core question driving everything. We ask, how can the East and the West listen to each other, not just talk past one another?
And we're back to listening, aren't we? Right where we started, listening before speech.
It feels like the central challenge.
It absolutely is. It acknowledges that historically, maybe even right now, the dialogue between East and West, it's often been each side just talking from its own viewpoint, own assumptions, own cultural norms.
Without really hearing the other side.
Or maybe using the same words but meaning completely different things. It's not just about language, is it? It's cultural, conceptual, deep.
So getting to real understanding, it means deliberately silencing your own inner commentary for long enough to truly take in the other person's world.
That's the work. That's the listening.
And this focus, this commitment to deep listening and resonance, it leads them to ask these really transformative questions about leadership basics. Questions that kind of flip things upside down.
Like what?
Like, what if empathy was strategy?
Okay. That challenges the old split, doesn't it, between soft skills like empathy and hard skills like strategy.
Right. It says understanding how others feel, really stepping into their shoes. That's not just a nice extra. It could be the driver of your strategy.
Imagine using empathy actively in a negotiation, entering a new market, building a team, using it to make decisions, build trust.
It suggests connection isn't a distraction from strategy. It could be the foundation of strategy.
Yeah.
Powerful. And here's another challenging one, especially for cultures that really value, being assertive, speaking up.
Okay.
What if silence was a strength?
Silence. We're often so uncomfortable with it, aren't we? In meetings, conversations, we just rush to fill the space.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you think about it, drawing from, say, many Eastern traditions, silence isn't empty. It's potential. It's space.
Space for what?
For reflection, observation, for letting deeper truths come up. In leadership, using silence intentionally, it can be powerful.
How?
Well, it creates space for others to speak. It can show respect, demonstrate patience. It can let your own intuition surface. It can actually be a sign of confidence, not hesitation.
So it challenges the idea that the leader always has to be the loudest or the quickest.
Exactly.
Okay, so this whole series, Global Leadership Insights 2030, this deep dive we're just starting, it really grew directly out of that core question about East and West learning to listen.
Yes, the source is clear. This series is the direct result of that deep inquiry, and it's clearly been a huge effort, described as over 750 pages of reflection, stories, case studies, voices from around the world.
Wow, that's not a small undertaking.
Not at all. Years, it sounds like. Years of listening, researching, gathering wisdom from all over, grounded in lived experience, not just abstract ideas.
And the process, it wasn't just about collecting information from outside, was it? It sounds like there was a really significant and maybe difficult internal journey for the speaker, too.
How so?
The source talks about a desire to unlearn everything that made leadership feel like a performance.
There's that performance idea again. Unlearning it.
Yeah. It's like admitting that maybe a lot of what they learned, what many of us learned about leadership, was about projecting an image, following steps, meeting expectations, the performance.
And wanting to unlearn that. It speaks to needing to shed those layers, right? Connect with something more authentic, more real.
And that unlearning was paired with something else, a kind of counter movement. And to remember what made it sacred.
Sacred, that word really stands out, doesn't it? In a professional context, you don't hear it much.
No. But the source is careful here. It defines it. Not sacred as in religious.
Okay, important distinction.
Sacred as in real, as in felt.
So not dogma, not rituals, but about accessing something deeper. Authenticity. Genuine emotional connection to the work, the people.
Finding the truth and meaning below the surface of the spreadsheets and the targets.
That makes sense.
And the metaphor used for this sacredness incredibly gentle, tender almost, as in something you don't own but carry, like water cupped in your hands.
Water cupped in your hands. Wow. Okay. So that shifts things again, doesn't it? Away from owning things, controlling things, which is typical leadership language.
Towards caring for.
Water in cupped hands.
Yeah.
It's precious. It's vulnerable. You can lose it easily if you grip too tight or if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So it suggests this sacred part of leadership. It's not a possession. It's not a tool you wield. It's a delicate responsibility, something you nurture, protect. You have to be mindful of its value, its fragility.
It reframes leadership entirely, as service, as guardianship.
Beautifully put.
So this naturally makes you wonder, who is this series actually for? Who is this deep dive meant for? The source speaks right to you, the listener, acknowledging you could be anywhere right now.
Right. Maybe you're listening now on your morning commute, or in a hotel room on the other side of the world.
And it says, your job title doesn't really matter. Maybe you lead a team. Maybe you lead no one except yourself.
Which reinforces that idea again, doesn't it? These principles, they apply to being human, how we interact. Doesn't matter if you have formal authority. We're all leading our own lives, at the very least.
And then there's this really clear statement, almost defiant, about who this is not for.
Oh, who isn't it for?
It says, not for the perfect leader.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Right. That myth of the perfect leader, it's such a heavy weight, an impossible standard.
So that statement, it just creates space, doesn't it? Permission. It's okay to be imperfect, to be human, to be figuring things out.
It acknowledges that the people who probably need this most aren't the ones who think they've got it all figured out.
It's for the ones still in the messiness of it all.
Exactly. So if it's not for the flawless, unattainable leader, who is it for?
The source says it clearly. It's for the human one.
The human one. That feels like the core audience. The leader who feels things, who struggles sometimes, who messes up, who's trying to connect for real.
The one who recognizes their own vulnerability and the humanity in the people they work with.
It grounds the whole thing in real life, human experience, with all the complications and imperfections. So this deep dive is for you if you see yourself as the human one.
Yeah.
And this specific moment, this episode 0, it's not about jumping straight into all the content. The source describes it as the place where we stay a little longer in the pause.
Lingering at the threshold before diving into all the rich stuff in future episodes.
Yeah. It says, we name our intentions. We breathe.
It's like an active choice to slow down, be present, ground ourselves before we start the journey properly.
Like a mini practice of the very presence the whole series is talking about.
Exactly. What do you intend to bring to this? What are you hoping to hear, maybe?
And right from that pause, the source invites you, the listener, into this really deep personal question, one that probably shapes our leadership more than any course we take.
What's the question?
It asks you directly, who taught you how to lead?
Ooh, okay. That's not asking about your first boss, is it? Or who promoted you?
No. It's asking about the deep stuff, the imprinting, the early lessons, good or bad, that change how you guide yourself, how you guide others.
And the source makes it clear it's not just about managing or performing. It's about how to truly lead.
And it lists some qualities of that true leadership, things maybe someone modeled for us or taught us. To stay, to hold space, to speak when the room goes quiet, to listen when the words fail.
Those are powerful actions, aren't they? Staying, holding space. That suggests leadership isn't always about doing something dynamic.
Right. Sometimes it's just being there, enduring discomfort, creating safety for others.
And speaking when it's quiet. That takes courage. Listening when words fail. That takes real sensitivity, patience. Knowing the important stuff isn't always said out loud.
The source is also really honest that answering this question, it might be hard, maybe even painful.
It admits that.
Yeah, it says vulnerably, maybe no one did. Or maybe someone did, but in a way that hurt.
That honesty feels important. It validates that for a lot of people, maybe the early experiences weren't great. Maybe there was an absence or negative examples.
Maybe you learned what not to do.
Yeah.
Or had to figure it all out alone.
And that difficult start, that's part of the human story too. It's okay.
And right after that, there's reassurance, a sense of shared vulnerability. That's okay. We are all still learning.
That creates connection, doesn't it? The speaker isn't pretending to have all the answers. They're a fellow traveler. Still learning too.
It makes it all feel more accessible. We're learning alongside, not being lectured at.
Right.
And this personal reflection, thinking about how we learn to lead, it flows straight into a core belief for the whole series. especially with the East-West focus.
Which is?
I believe that leadership is cultural, never neutral.
Okay, that's a big statement. It pushes back against the idea that there are universal leadership rules that work everywhere, for everyone.
Exactly. It means leadership isn't just some technical skill you learn. It's deeply embedded in culture, shaped by it, expressed through it.
Our norms, our values, our history, they influence everything. How we make decisions, view authority, give feedback, handle conflict.
There's no single right way to lead that ignores culture.
No culturally neutral way.
And the source gives real examples of where you see this cultural fingerprint on leadership. That lives in our gestures, in the way we open meetings, in how we deal with conflict, in what we reward, in what we punish, in who we hear and who we ignore.
Those are the subtle signals, aren't they? Often unconscious. Power, status, expectations in any group.
Think about like a handshake versus a bow, direct eye contact versus looking away, expecting everyone to agree quickly versus being comfortable with debate.
These small things, they're enactments of cultural leadership norms, and who gets heard, who gets ignored, that shows what a culture really values, or fears.
So, if leadership is always cultural, what does that mean for global leadership? The source clarifies it's not about becoming an expert on every single culture out there.
That would be impossible and exhausting.
Right. So it's not about knowing every culture. What is it about then?
The focus turns inward. It says global leadership, in this view, is fundamentally about staying awake to your own.
Staying awake to your own culture, your own lens.
Exactly. How well do you understand your own assumptions, your biases, the norms you just take for granted? Because those are the filters you see everyone else through.
So without that self-awareness of your own cultural programming, you can't really understand or navigate differences effectively.
It's like self-discovery is the first step to global connection.
Okay, so we've set this stage now. Listening first. The human journey. Leadership as cultural. Now, the source gives us a little preview, a taste of the landscape we're going to explore in the upcoming deep dives in this series.
Ah, the roadmap ahead. What's on it?
It sounds fascinating. It mentions exploring the interplay between different ways we build trust and inspire action, how data builds trust, but how stories move people.
Oh, that's a great tension. Data gives you the proof, the credibility, but it's often the story, the human narrative, that actually gets people emotionally invested, willing to act.
And we'll get specific about regions, moving past stereotypes, looking at the difference between leading in North America and leading in Kenya, Japan, Brazil.
Interesting choices. North America, Kenya, Japan, Brazil. Quite a contrast in terms of, well, everything. Economy, culture, history, communication.
It suggests we'll really dig into the why behind the differences, understand the cultural forces at play.
That sounds incredibly valuable.
The series is also going to tackle something often kept separate from leadership talk, our past. We'll explore how trauma shapes leadership.
Wow, that's brave and necessary, isn't it? If we're talking about the human leader. Leaders carry past experiences, including trauma, just like everyone else.
And understanding how that can impact trust, risk, communication. It seems crucial for building healthier, more effective organizations.
Adds a whole layer of psychological depth.
And circling back to the beginning again, silence. How silence isn't the absence of communication, but a language of its own.
We need to become literate in silence, don't we? What does it mean here? Now, is it respect? Disagreement? Thoughtfulness? Resistance?
Learning to read silence seems like a really advanced leadership skill, especially across cultures.
Definitely.
The series will also focus on specific kinds of leadership that maybe challenge the old models. We'll explore LGBTQIA plus leadership, feminist leadership.
Which raises that important question. What can we learn from people and movements who've often had to lead from the margins, navigating systems not designed for them?
What strengths emerge from that? What kinds of resilience?
Exploring those perspectives has to enrich our whole understanding of what leadership even is.
And looking ahead to the big challenges, broader, forward-looking leadership types, planetary, regenerative, visionary.
Yeah, those push leadership way beyond just one company or one country. Planetary, thinking about the whole ecosystem. Regenerative. Not just taking, but restoring, replenishing, visionary, painting that compelling picture of the future.
We need those frameworks, don't we, for the next decade and beyond?
Absolutely.
And then there's this one, maybe unexpected. We'll explore the body as a site of leadership. What does that mean?
Well, it recognizes leadership isn't just in your head, right? It's embodied. How you show up physically, your presence, your nonverbals, even your gut feelings, your intuition. the wisdom your body holds.
Somatic intelligence.
Exactly. How does your physical state affect your presence, your resilience, your connection? Tuning into the body is another source of insight.
Fascinating. And we return to that idea of the sacred, and the sacred as a source of strength.
Which, if we think about burnout, the search for meaning, finding that thing that feels real, felt, the sacred, however you define it, that can be a deep wellspring.
For resilience, clarity, staying true to your values.
Yeah, a source of strength beyond just promotions or profits.
And finally, the series will look at the different ways we need to lead in tough times versus, well, other times. We'll explore what it means to lead in crisis and what it means to lead with care.
That's a crucial distinction. Crisis often needs quick decisions, clear commands. Care needs empathy, safety, support.
They can feel opposite sometimes.
Right. So how do you integrate them? Be decisive and compassionate. That's vital for getting through tough times while keeping people whole.
So that's a glimpse of the territory. And the source also hints at how these episodes might feel. The texture of them. It won't all be the same. Some might feel like essays.
Structured arguments, analysis, exploring concepts.
Others, perhaps surprisingly, like prayers.
Suggesting moments of deeper reflection, vulnerability, maybe reverence for the human journey, the challenges, more contemplative, heartfelt.
And some will sit somewhere in between.
Blending the head and the heart, analysis and reflection together.
And this variety makes sense because the core intention isn't just about sharing ideas or information. It's about bringing not just ideas, but presence.
Presence. Back to that state of being fully here, grounded, attentive, in a world overflowing with noise and distraction. Maybe the most valuable thing a leader can offer is their focused, authentic presence.
It creates trust, doesn't it? Allows real connection.
It's contagious, I think.
Because, as the source says, summing it up, that's what leadership needs more of now, in this loud, fast world. Not more noise, more presence.
It feels like such a core insight, not just for 2030, but for right now, today.
It's a critique, really, isn't it? Of all the performative stuff, the constant need to communicate broadcasts.
Suggesting true impact comes from somewhere quieter. Rootedness. Mindful being, not just reacting all the time.
So as we kind of linger here in this threshold space, the source offers some final wishes for you, the listener. Hopes for how you might travel your own leadership path, guided by these ideas.
What are the wishes?
The first one is powerful, that you never lead from fear.
Fear drives so much, but often towards control, mistrust, playing it safe, protecting yourself instead of the collective.
So wishing for no fear in leadership. It's wishing for courage, authenticity, believing in potential, not just seeing threats.
Yeah, a powerful anchor.
And then that you never forget the sound of your own values.
Amidst all the complexity, the pressures, the different cultural signals, it's easy to lose touch with that inner compass, isn't it?
Totally.
So this wish encourages staying connected to your core principles. Your values are like that internal echo, guiding your choices, especially when things get tricky or ethically gray. Remembering their sound means listening to that inner voice, letting it shape how you act. Integrity.
And this one brings us back again, that you trust the pauses.
Trusting the silence, the space between things. Resisting that urge to always be doing something, saying something.
Letting things emerge.
Yeah. Allowing space for reflection, for uncertainty to resolve itself, for deeper understanding to arise. It takes patience, doesn't it? Believing that not every second needs to be filled.
And a really crucial reminder, one that lifts a huge weight, that you remember. You don't have to be perfect to lead with power.
Oh, that's liberating. Permission to be human again.
Because chasing perfection is just exhausting. It makes you hide your flaws, fear mistakes.
And true power, as it's defined here, it doesn't come from being flawless or knowing everything.
So where does it come from? The source says, because power is not in the performance. Not the polished image, the perfect speech.
No, it's in the integrity.
Being whole. Your actions matching your words and values.
It's in the rootedness.
That deep connection to your values, your purpose, your community, maybe the earth.
Yeah.
Whatever grounds you. Gives you stability when things get rough.
And finally, it's in the willingness to be seen, unpolished, uncertain, still standing.
That's vulnerability as strength, isn't it? The courage to just show up as you are. Imperfect, questioning, still learning, but still there, still engaged.
That kind of raw authenticity, it connects with people in a way that polished perfection never can.
The source pulls these thoughts together with a quote, one that really captures the difference. Ego makes noise. Legacy leaves echoes.
Noise versus echoes. Ego wants attention now. It's loud, maybe flashy, but often fades.
Legacy. That's the lasting impact. The ripples. The influence that continues quietly long after you're gone, built on substance, connection.
A profound difference.
And this deep dive, this whole series, it's intended to be an echo, not noise, not just the speaker's ego. It's meant as an echo of everyone who has taught me.
That feels like deep humility and gratitude, acknowledging that wisdom isn't created in isolation.
It's a synthesis. Lessons learned from so many others, a whole chorus of voices shaping this understanding.
Not just the speaker's invention.
And the list of who these teachers are. It's beautiful. It captures the whole range of human experience as a source of learning. The elders, the friends, the critics.
The critics, too.
The students.
Yeah.
The lovers. The ones who left. The ones who stayed.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Including the difficult relationships, the critics, the ones who left. It recognizes that we learn just as much, maybe more sometimes, from friction, disagreement, loss, as we do from support and connection.
It's an echo of real life, not just theory.
It makes you think about the echoes in your own life, doesn't it? Who were your unexpected teachers?
Absolutely. And finally, the source is really clear about the relationship being offered here. Between the speaker and you, the listener, as you go through this series.
What's the relationship?
I'm not here to lead you.
Okay, so not a guru, not someone telling you what to do. It's not that kind of hierarchy.
No, instead, I'm here to walk with you.
A companion, a fellow traveler, sharing insights, questions, reflections from their own path.
But trusting you, the listener, to find your own way, draw your own conclusions.
It's an invitation to explore together, side by side.
And the pace of this walk, this journey, like the river, it's intentional. One step, one page, one voice at a time.
Not a sprint.
No, it honors the depth of the material, doesn't it? And the human time it takes to learn, to integrate, to transform. It's asking for deep engagement, patience, presence.
Yeah.
So here we are, standing at this threshold, taking that breath.
Naming our intentions.
Remembering to trust the pauses.
Acknowledging the human, sometimes messy, journey of leadership.
We know this is just the beginning, the start of an exploration that promises to be deep, maybe vulnerable,
but full of profound insights for leading in this complex world we're in.
An exploration grounded in listening.
Fueled by questions.
And guided by the idea that real power isn't in the performance,
but in our imperfect human integrity, our rootedness.
Now, the journey begins not in the book, but in you.